So I see a lot of new people on here. I do see some people from other points. So just want to go over a couple things. So first of all, my name is Daryl Detrick. I'm a computer science teacher at Warren Hills, and I'm the director of the CS4NJ Coalition. David?
Hello, I am David Amiel. I'm a research associate at Rutgers University and one of the members of the Computer Science Education Hubs.
And if you are here and just want to type in your name, district, and position, that would be great. And we kind of see who's here. So, all right, so there are two things I want to cover before we go any further. I'm kind of hoping that we have some administrators here who have not been involved with computer science before. And I think there's two baseline things I just want to touch on real quick before we go through the rest of this. So first of all, our goal is not to make everybody into computer scientists. Our goal is to make all students into computational thinkers. So that's a big difference. Why do we have computer science for all when not everybody's not going to be a computer scientist? Because computer science and computational thinking are as important as reading, writing, and arithmetic are. In today's society. So think of it that way. You know, when you teach reading, teach writing, you're not trying to make everybody an author, but you're trying to make them, valuable in whatever job they go into. And the second thing I just want to say real quick is that computer science is more than coding. So do not think that because we're talking computer science, we're talking about programming only. It's much, much more than that. And particularly in the K-5 level, you know, there's a lot that can be done without computers and so forth. So for people that are new to computer science and saying, how the heck am I going to teach a kindergarten how to program? That's not necessarily what we're trying to do at this point. Okay, so just a little bit about where we are in New Jersey. We've been working on this effort for about 9 years now, and we've made a lot of progress under Governor Murphy. So just real quick, there's been funding in each of the 4 budgets. We had another $2 million this year for computer science education. We just had a computer science advisory board meeting that went really well. We've been meeting with those for about 3 years now. There is a computer science action plan for CSforAll in New Jersey. It got disrupted a little bit by COVID, but there is an action plan. I will share the link for this, and maybe David, you could do that. Share a link for this presentation so that if people want to look at these links, you can. There are learning standards, and I'll talk about those in the next slide, but they are huge, and they really are going to be the thing that makes us have to move forward in New Jersey in the next couple of years. There's a CS teaching certificate that has not been released yet, but we're expecting that sometime in the fall. However, that will not be for the K-8 level. It'll be focused on the high school level at this point. So not for K-8. And then the other thing is there's the CS teacher learning hubs, and we have 3 of those at Rutgers, Fairleigh Dickinson, and Kean, and David will be talking a little bit more about those. So the design standard thinkings, just so you all are aware, they were adopted in June of 2020, which is right in the middle of COVID. So a lot of people around the state may not have heard about them and what's going on with them. But they will be there to be implemented in September of 2022. So we're less than a year away from having these standards implemented. The standards are required to be taught to all students in K through 8, and they are in grade bands. So there's a grade band for K through 2, there's a grade band for 3 through 5, and there's a grade band for 6 through 8, and then 9 through 12. So within those grade bands, all students in New Jersey must be learning what is presented in those standards. The standards at the high school level, they must be offered at every high school, but they are not a requirement. But we're talking K-5 right now. And the standards are based on the K-12 CS frameworks and the national CS standards. So we had a group in New Jersey that worked on these for over a year, developing these standards and release them. So they're much, much more than the old CS standards. They are not a revision of it. They're a rework of the computer science standards. All right, David, go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I'm just going to speak briefly about the Computer Science Hubs, which is a really exciting project and one that I know some of you have been involved with, just scrolling through names, and we hope that everyone will be by the end of this presentation. So very briefly on the Hubs initiative itself, the Hubs are really looking to provide high quality professional learning for educators in the state. And this is really exciting because a lot of times when we think about computer science professional development, sometimes I'll even catch myself saying it, it's always for computer science teachers. What's great about the hubs is that, we're saying we're all computer science teachers now, especially with the new standards coming out in New Jersey. We want to make sure that we are providing districts with resources that are going to be useful to them as they begin to implement these standards and really think intentionally about ways that computer science is going to be incorporated across different disciplines and different grade levels. We are also working very hard to build partnerships with stakeholders. That includes, of course, everyone in this room today, teachers at all grade levels, administrators in all types of capacities, and many other roles in the educational setting. And finally, of course, all with this end goal of really promoting the growth of computer science education for all students. These hubs were provided from the NJDOE budget, and we've received a lot of support from the governor and the NJDOE, and we're really appreciative of that, and hoping that we can use that going forward. I am a member of the Rutgers University Hub, but I'm going to speak very briefly on behalf of the others, just to provide you some information about what each hub is looking to provide. We all are unified in that same mission, but the way we kind of approach it is a little different. So the Fairleigh Dickinson Computer Science Hub is offering an interactive community building and supporting school administrators, as well as periodic professional learning for K-12 teachers. They are also curating a web repository of tools and lesson plans that will be kind of a collaborative space and accessible to all educators within New Jersey. And finally, their professional development is hoping to focus on culturally responsive teaching practices. The Kean Computer Science Hub is hosting a lending library, and there are actually some sessions that I'll talk about in just a second. Also, of course, K-12 teacher professional learning. They're also focusing on culturally responsive pedagogies and teaching methods, and they are also hosting and doing a lot of really great work involving school counselors and CWIT and counselors for computing. So that's very exciting. At Rutgers, our hub efforts are really divided into our school leader professional learning that we have. We're actually kicking things off with a leadership summit in just under 2 weeks. Our K-12 teacher professional learning, we had some sessions over the summer, and we'll be offering one session each month during the school year. And we're very, very excited to announce a computer science community of practice, which is an online collaborative virtual space that we encourage everyone to join. Chat with one another. There's rooms to work, and actually starting today in about 15-20 minutes is our first weekly office hour, which are times where any teacher in New Jersey can drop in and speak to a CS content specialist. Just looking at, some opportunities for everyone in this room to get involved and receive some of the services that the hubs are offering. If you go to, first of all, the best place to get information is each hub's website. The Kean website is caneCSHub.com, FDUCSHub.com, and RutgersCSHub.com. Kean University is starting their counselor and advocate series, I believe next week. Their lending library workshops are getting started at the end of this month as well. And there's already some ongoing workshops with microbits and Python. FDU has 2 sessions coming up as well. And when we provide the links to the slides, you'll be able to get right to the website to register for those sessions as well. We also, shameless plug for the Rutgers Hub here, we are also hoping that you will consider joining us. As I mentioned, we have monthly professional development opportunities throughout the school year. Our K-5 standards workshop was designed to introduce K-5 and elementary school teachers to these new standards and present kind of ways that they can be done in the classroom, with the big message that this is new, this is exciting, and it's something that you can and might already be doing. We're running a repeat of that workshop over 2 weekends in September and October, and our next K-5 specific event will be next April. That's not to say you have to wait until next April to get involved. We have the online community of practice that you can join at any time. There's a QR code on the screen, and you can get to it from the website as well, to join the Discord server. Once you're in, you'll just give me your name, and I'll make sure you're not a random person and an educator, and you'll be able to interact with the community. Office hours, as I mentioned, are also starting today. Also info on our website.
Sorry about that.
Oh, no problem. And that is it from me. Thank you all so much. And I'll give it back over to Daryl as we wrap up our talkie part.
Yeah, we're actually doing pretty good on time here, Dave. It's a good partnership. We're talking fast, but so just to point out a few other things that are happening. We do have a code.org, a regional partner in New Jersey, so TCNJ. TCNJ offers free workshops for K-5 educators and in CS fundamentals. So there's a curriculum for that. I will also tell you that that code.org, the New Jersey partner, is going to be offering a free workshop for K-5 or K-8, it must be K-5 school librarians. They're going to be offering that coming up pretty soon here. So if you have somebody, a school librarian who'd be interested in that, they should contact the New Jersey Association for School Librarians and JASL. We have been partnering with them and trying to get the school librarians to take an active role in implementing computer science for all in the K-8 level. And they've been tremendously supportive. So there's some exciting things happening there. As far as code.org, I don't want to take, I mean, Katie already said a lot of this in the main presentation, but there is a curriculum for elementary school. I will tell you, I have taught the CS Principles course, and it is one of the best curriculum I've ever taught. Not just computer science, it's just good. It's good education in a lot of ways. So I'd highly recommend looking into code.org and some of the stuff they do. CS4NJ, just a little bit about it. CS4NJ basically is supporting the governor's computer science initiative and the action plan. So the CS4NJ.org is a repository for all things computer science in New Jersey. So if you're interested in that, you can go there. The biggest thing I'd recommend is anybody in your school who wants to teach computer science and wants to follow along with our Google group. It is basically the place that we share information about all the things that are going on there. So we have over 500 members on our Google group for that. So and our coalition has a number of universities involved with it, and Google and Microsoft and code.org and College Board and so forth. So we also cybersecurity, but that's actually not for K-5, that's for school. So. And then the New Jersey Teachers Association is developing working groups for K-8. And so if your teachers would like to get involved with the working groups for K-8, there's the information there to join the New Jersey Computer Science Teachers Association, which is a great group of educators. So at this point, I think we are done. I think we have 10 minutes. We almost did that perfectly. So the question is, how can we help you? So I'm actually going to escape from this for a second. And I want to copy this link so that if anybody, oops, change the restrictions, sorry about that. Anyone with the link, copy the link, done. So that if anybody would like to see that presentation, it is there. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. And let's have a discussion here for 10 minutes. So particularly interested in hearing from people who are new to this. How can we help you? How can the Department of Education help? How can CS4NJ help? How can the hubs help? Thoughts?
I would like to ask a question.
Go ahead.
Hi, Janine Barboza from Cedar Roof Schools. I've just transitioned from K-12 math science supervisor in the district to focusing only on elementary. And right now we have different initiatives, including a big focus on literacy. However, in the last year, the 2 media center specialists from each of our 2 elementary schools were taken away. And so the question is, how do we, with all of the other things going on, focus on DEI and social emotional learning and things like that. How logistically, this is my question to myself and the staff and the principals, how logistically can we fit this programming, coding, problem solving type of lessons and projects with our students in a schedule that is has already busted at the seams, and we do not have a specialist in the building to direct any of it?
So that's a great question. And it's a question that I don't think is completely answered. And I think it's different for every district depending on the situation. So part of the reason that we are encouraging the New Jersey school librarians to get involved is exactly that, right? If they are teaching these skills that are required skills, I've said that a librarian is like a Swiss Army knife of education, and they do a little bit of everything. And if you add an essential skill to, another essential skill to what they're doing, that can help. So it may be too late in your district for that, but in other districts, I think that's a valuable way to go. There's some districts that are doing it through their libraries. Some districts are doing it through like a tech coordinator, and they're doing it as a pull-out type of class that meets once a week. So honestly, the time commitment that is needed to do this is over the course of the year. I've heard some schools that are doing it 9 hours over the course of the year, and they're basically able to cover parts of those standards, right? So we're not talking constantly of doing this. We're not talking it's the same as an English class or a math class, something like that. Some schools are integrating it into other subjects. They're integrating it into math, they're integrating it into science, they're integrating it into other subjects. And some schools are doing it as a pull out, whether it's in the tech department or whether it's with the librarians or whatever it's going to be. So I don't know if anybody else wants to add to what I just said there. But this is something we need to work on through the hubs, through the Department of Education. And there's not going to be a one size fits all answer for this. But does anybody have anything to add to that or an additional question? Just like teaching. Myra, were you going to say something or no?
No, I was not.
Okay, I just saw it lit up around your screen, and I thought you were about to say something.
No, I should have been muted, and I guess
Okay.
I'm not. Sorry.
No problem. So Janine, I think that's something that our hubs should find ways to bring people together. David was talking about these office hours that they're having, and Paige is leading the office hour. I think that starts at 4 o'clock, and she's just great. I mean, just awesome. So she would be one to talk to say, hey, how are you doing? How are other schools doing it? And I'm finding the same thing with talking to the Library Association and everybody else. People are doing it in different ways. But don't think of this as like adding a math class. It's over 3 years because the standards are broken up into basically a 3-year thing. And it's, periods of time for 3 years. It's more than an hour of code. An hour of code will not satisfy it. However, it's not, I don't think it has to be overwhelming by any means. Anybody else have questions about this, please? How can we help you is my question to you.
So Daryl, there's some, I don't know if you've noticed some comments in the chat room.
Okay, I'm sorry.
So you might just want to take a peek.
Thank you.
There's something there about
Code.org.
Yes, Amy.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
Okay.
Amy Penwell, but it's Amy.
So Amy, it's as far as the code.org has things like Hour of Code, which are just like one and done lessons, but they also have a curriculum associated with it. And they have free professional development associated with that. That will be announced in the next coming weeks. So they'll have that. So if you want to look at their curriculum, you can get started with that, but there's a combination of the two. Scratch is another great tool, and Scratch has a Scratch Junior tool. Through Harvard, Harvard has a curriculum associated with Scratch, and I believe there's another one too. But those are types of things that we can try to get these discussions going and try to help you with it. So again, if we reach out to the hubs and ask those questions to the hubs, we can do that and keep going from there. But Scratch Junior is great. anyone interested in joining office hours. So David has the office hours on there if you're interested in having these discussions. Again, I'm a high school teacher, so I have some knowledge about this, but not, talking to somebody like Paige or talking to somebody else who's in a K-5 would even be more valuable for you. All right.
Daryl, if I
Yes.
can just add one thing, this is Myra. I just wanted to encourage people to take a look at the different hubs again and the hub offerings. So I remember seeing in my travels and when I was out on the internet that Kean is offering a BBOT workshop. I saw something from a K1 teacher earlier in the chat room. And the BBOTs are something I've been wanting to play with for like 6 years and never had the opportunity to. So I don't think it's a especially long one. It might be after school or whatever. So encourage again, you to take a look at the hubs and what they're offering, because there really are a lot of, things that can move it along. There really isn't one thing that any one person can say, this is what you should be doing for K-8 at this point, because there's so many different things and 5 different disciplinary areas in the standards, concepts in the standards, and we're just getting started. But variety is the spice of life. And these are all things that are not really hard to work on. The BBOT, I saw it in the Kean hub. So you might want to look at the Kean hub. I think David gave the hub. Yeah, there it is. So it might be interesting to check out all the different things they're doing and select a few of them to go to. There's a whole year before we really have to meet the standards. So there's time to figure out what you like, don't like, and what is useful or not. So just my 2 cents.
And Karen, you asked about what hubs can we go to, and the hubs are not regionalized. Anybody can go to any of them. At this point, almost all activities at the hubs are virtual. It's hopeful that in the future that they will not all be virtual, although I'm sure there'll be a hybrid of those things. So, and what's kind of cool is all the hubs are working on a little bit different things. So whichever one you find that can help you out is the one you should attend as far as that. So, and David, I'm correct in saying this, that all workshops at the hubs are free. Is that an accurate statement?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Very free, and we, for certain workshops, depending on the time, have stipends available for teachers, and we also have funding available to help your district cover substitutes to get you to workshops if they occur during the school day.
So, and the hubs were developed as part of an $800,000 in the governor's budget. That actually was the first grant released after COVID for education, just to show how important computer science education is to Governor Murphy's office. So, so with that $800,000, we were able to start these 3 hubs, and it's modeled after something that happened in England. We kind of model it after that. Is there another question?
I did have a question, Laura Dunbar. I'm from Secret Elementary School. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. So I'm sort of new to all this and thrown into the position. I'm really an 8th grade teacher. So trying to teach kindergarten and 1st grade is so far outside my realm. But I'm doing my best. So what I really need is lesson plans. And I know that there was a lot of information shot out all at once. I so appreciate it. I've been like taking screenshots and writing things down. Is there one place that you could recommend that I could go to maybe look at some lesson planning?
I will speak to the best of my knowledge. If somebody else wants to add to this, go from there. So first of all, again, I would probably reach out to that office hours for the Rutgers hub and ask those teachers for some more information. I would also look at code.org. It's a great place to start for a lot of that stuff. And code.org, as I said, their curriculum is just phenomenal, what they do with that. So those would be the 2 places I would start. On CSforAll.org, we put up a number of curriculums that are nationally vetted curriculums, and you can look on there also. So if you go to CSforAll.org, there is a link to some curriculums that you can look at. But I will say this too. As a state, we should work together to make that easy, right? Rather than have to have people look all over the place, we should have one place that people can find.
And it was interesting. I did have my kids last year try to do some code.org stuff. And then I went to a workshop through Scratch this summer, sort of that Harvard program, because I knew I had to get better in all of this. And it was interesting. They said the kids will go through code.org as if they're doing a virtual game. And then they like win that level and keep going, but they don't keep any information in their head. Like it doesn't really sink in. So then when they're asked to do something, they can't retrieve that information. Which of course I was being told this by someone else. And when I thought back on my code.org experiences, I kind of saw that with my students. I'd be like, well, last lesson, you learned how to do that while you were doing all this. And they were like, oh, well, I got to the end and that was my goal. My goal was to get to the end, but I didn't keep it in my head.
Right.
So sort of an interesting thing. I love code.org and it engages them, but it's missing that component of, I don't even know what you call that. I should know as a teacher. I've just
I know what you mean, and I think it's going to work differently for everybody in presentation, but I think it should probably be supplemented with unplugged activities. So activities that don't require computers. I think those are really, really important at all levels, but in particular for lower kids. My students, they go to the elementary schools and teach, and they just bought a game today that you lay out a pattern and then you teach them to program it with cards. And one kid directs the other kid to go through the maze type of thing. I forget the name of the game, but it was really pretty cool. So I think that there's some unplugged activity to look at too. But again, we need to develop that as a state. I think that's a big part of this. Anybody else? Oh, boot up. Somebody mentioned boot up with Scratch Junior. That's a good place to go. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if we're supposed to be going back here, but I want to say hi, Jason. Welcome. Thanks for joining Jersey, man. You had a choice of all 50 and you joined Jersey.
Well, I joined several to be fair.
We're honored. So Jason is with CSTA National. So he was a big supporter of our CSPD week that we had this past summer, which was really focused on mostly on K-8. So, okay. So just before I run out of time, what I would suggest is join one of these organizations. If you want to join CSforAll.org's Google group, you have to basically click on to say ask for an invite, and then we'll invite you. If you want to find out more about the hubs and the office hours, are a great place to go. And then the Department of Education is going to be making some movements forward. There's an announcement today, but I don't know if it's public. That's a new CS specialist. But I'm sure the CS specialist will be working on some of these things, and I will make sure the CS specialist hears all these things that are happening too. So, all right. There's an announcement at the main session at 4 or 5. So we're good. We have to leave. All right. Go ahead, Myra. I'm sorry, you're muted.
I don't know for sure, but he said to go back at 4:05 for an announcement at the main session.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll stay on here for a minute, but if anybody has questions, Stan, and feel free to email me. All right. Bye, guys.
Everyone.